since Robert and Bishop their players are unfortunately not available at this time. I would think with Sasha's pushing, Bishop would probably start getting into contact with the church. And with that, we're going to push ahead a little bit. About a week later. What has happened in the last week is the longest night has shown in force. The fires have stopped. There haven't been any new attacks of that. However, news reports of armed violence. And the city's by no means any quieter. Would the three of you have stayed in the city during this week of downtime, as it were?
Probably just outside in the sort of fairly kind of like slightly isolated neighborhood, just kind of like on the outskirts of the city, but at home where the safe house is.
Yeah, I mean, Frederick doesn't have any long-term place to stay over a week, but I mean, he'd do his best to try to stick around and see if he can't help out where he can and make sure that we don't indiscriminately torch too much of the city.
Sasha?
Sasha would be pretty well following the rest of the cell's example. And honestly, she'd probably be trying to be involved with most of the action, not necessarily because she wants to be, but because she still has the condition obsession vampires on her sheet. And I think that would kind of manifest as her wanting to make sure and see that, they're actually going through and getting success and culling these vampires. That if it wasn't for that fear-based condition, that she probably would be much more comfortable saying, I just, this is out of our league, I've raised my hands. But instead, she's kind of wanting to get a little more reassurance that, the right hearts are getting staked.
So, with that bit, I would want the three of you to make me a intelligence investigation roll. Now, Edward, yours is going to be at a -1 since you're kind of outside of the city. Frederick, you don't have a long-term place to stay, so I'm guessing you're in hotel rooms, in and out of hotels in the area.
Those that haven't burned down.
Go ahead and give me a flat roll. Sasha, go ahead and give me a roll with a +2 modifier, just because you're kind of in the thick of it here.
Oh. Still didn't get anything.
All right. Frederick, however, you are aware that these commotions have drawn the attention of, unfortunately, government agencies. You are starting to notice more sophisticated people looking into each one of these attacks, whether it was a vampire against hunter, a hunter against vampire, or it's still vampire against vampire, but they are trying to mitigate that at this time. Maybe realizing that the spotlight is now on them, as it were.
Well, there's only so much we can do against the government. Important to note, important to keep our heads down, then.
Who specifically are you saying this to?
I'm just kind of, like, saying it as a reaction. I would, inform these people I'm working with that, the feds are on to us kind of deal.
So, we'll say this is on a group call, then.
That works, yeah. Sorry, brain not turned on right now.
Well, there could be vampires in the government for all we know. Or at the very least, if the local vampires could shut down local 911, there's no reason to believe that all this extra attention isn't potentially playing into some of their larger plans. I mean, the one that both the vampires that we interacted with were more than happy enough to see others of their kindred race be put to the torch. So, the fact is that as much as we are harming them, we're also helping them, because what they're wanting is thinner numbers right now, even if they don't fully realize it.
Still, I'm not sure if this is the best place to put your neck on the line, but perhaps it has to be done. But you're not about to see me wandering the streets hunting people. So I'll leave that to those who are a little more unhinged. There's a time and a place, and right now, people are just indiscriminately killing each other, so... Besides, I don't need a federal, felony on my records. That kind of goes against the purpose of trying to do the right thing out here.
Anything, Edward?
Thing is, we don't know how far this goes out. Like you say, Sasha, could be anywhere, could be anyone. I think we have to play that risk. More people we bring in, more chance there is they find out.
Well, let's be honest. If this little group of ragtags of ours wanders in and figures it out in a night or two, anyone who wants to know will already know. Like, come on. You think the feds don't know exactly what's going on here? If we know?
Not saying they don't. Just that we can play this like we're not too much of a threat. We bring in too many people. Well, then it becomes a problem. And you've seen what's happening out there. Everything becomes a problem. More people get hurt.
I suppose the blood's on my hands by association.
We all got blood on our hands.
Yes,
No
but
doubt.
far more innocent blood as we torch a city and call in a bunch of indiscriminates to gun each other down in the streets. Everyone out there trying to play judge, jury, and executioner in a single night. It's chaos, but I suppose that's what we brought to the city. Just more.
We didn't bring anything to the city. All we did was peel back the thin veneer that, as you said, the vampires were already chomping at the bit to take down. We've got one servant who acts very coy and says, I can't tell you anything. And she's serving the same people that blow up a hotel full of people, because they think it will get at their enemies. What is happening to this city is not our fault.
No.
We're just the ones that got called in to clean it up.
Aye, and we've decided on a very indiscriminate cleanup.
It's an
Sure.
indiscriminate mess.
Sweep up the majority of them, but how many innocents do you want to torch to get the evil ones, you know? It ain't a ratio that I like to play around, but I guess we don't have the time. Nor the cover to do things cleanly. I'm just displeased at what we've done. But what's done is done. Are we staying to help clean up the mess of what the other hunters have caused now? Or are we dipping? I suppose that's the question.
You know what the primary threat of the vampires is? They don't age. A vampire can live for 100 years, 200 years, 500 years. In all that time, they nurse grudges. If you have no set time limit, then you're free to pursue whatever interests you, whatever irks you. And the fact is that we may have stumbled into all this very easily, but we are still the primary targets, the primary faces to remember, as this is what happened before everything went to shit. I'm afraid that if I don't see Juliet's body smoking in the sun, that she's going to be behind every door, that she's going to be waiting in every shadow. Even if she walks away, even if she's patient, she waits for a year, 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. She can come back and she can strike at my parents' bakery, at your loved ones. Hell, Edward, what if Juliet goes out and finds some pretty young thing and charms her and says, get with him, get with Edward. Get under his skin, get into his heart. And then, when you are in love with her, that's when Juliet steps from the shadows and slices her throat. Or
Some
worse.
pretty young thing. If some pretty young thing takes an interest in me, I know something's wrong straight away. Here was you saying, I'm not dissenting on none. You know, this. I'm in agreement. My concern is just how far this goes. We take out Juliet, sure, but you're telling me she's top of the chain. Who's calling the shots her side? There ain't no victory to be had here. We just do what we can. Just damage control. That's all.
Who at this point would still have Juliet's card that she gave?
I don't see any reason why Sasha would have given that up.
Well, you haven't given it up, then you do have access to a few bits and pieces of information. Should you want to take action. But that ultimately...
I know it...
Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but that ultimately lies with you.
And that's what Sasha would be saying, is that it's not healthy for me to worry so much about one source of danger when I know that our lives are surrounded by danger and that we are trying to engage that danger so that it doesn't find other people to hurt. Like with the Talipo. But this isn't like the Talipo. This is something to where Juliet knows my face. She knows our faces. And as much as I can try and say she didn't put two and two together, that we're the ones that called all this down, I don't know that. I can't know that. And I'm afraid that she is going to show up again if we do not ensure that she is destroyed. The only other vampire that knows our face is that one who said he wanted to leave. I have my own misgivings about that, but he seemed sincere enough. Juliet seems sincere too. She seems sincere in wanting and being obsessed with getting what she wants. And that's why I think that maybe she's not the top of the food chain. Maybe she's not the one out there signing orders and sealing off bombs and sending out the executions. But she is the one that could have a vendetta against us. And as horrible as it is in this city, and I'm not trying to dismiss it, but How much worse would it be if Juliet follows us home? I say we have no choice but to ensure her destruction before she figures us out and sees to our destruction instead.
First, I think you're in the wrong line of work if you're going to be that paranoid about danger. But if you want to put another down, you need a lead beyond a business card. Even if that business card took you, even if that business card had her address on it right now, after what's happened in this past week, she's not there.
Other thing to consider as well is we took our bandaged up connection is on face value. Now, I know you said misgivings, but we give Juliet the same opportunity, walk away. You leave, you never stop walking. You don't turn back, you don't look back.
The one who looked us in the eye and expressed gratitude, sure, I'll extend some trust to that. But Juliet, we said we would help her. And reinforcements have done as much to hurt her as they've done to help her. Sure, if we could get some sort of meeting, and she says that we're cool, that's one thing. I'm not even sure that I would really want to take her at face value there, but let's at least say that's a different circumstance. Right now, all we know is that she's angry and she knows our faces.
You got a business card, probably got a number on it, don't it?
It does.
And besides, if she's as smart and cunning as you're paranoid that she is, I'm pretty sure she would have figured out that asking a bunch of schmucks like us for help is going to be quite indiscriminate with the potential for self-harm. I'm sure she already took the precautions. Like you said, timeless creatures, I'm sure they got plenty of little hovels to crawl into when the city starts burning.
Let's have a sit down, maybe talk about things.
With that, the phone line goes dead. What do the three of you wish to do? Separated as you are, since this was just a phone call.
Frederick is going to give the others some time to think, specifically Sasha, about what they want to do. He's probably going to go get a drink. It's been a week.
So, Frederick, this bar that you walk into, honestly, bar might be too strong of a word. Hole in the wall is probably a more apt term. You've seen its like about 100 times. The barkeep is friendly enough. Tiva behind the bar goes on with the news. News has only one thing on its mind of late. Bartender kind of clicks his tongue and goes, "It's always the same thing, isn't it?"
Nothing ever changes. People get hurt. People that shouldn't get hurt get hurt. Caught up in whatever's going on.
It sounds like you've had it rough. Sounds like you've gotten caught up into it to an extent, if you don't mind my
It's
prying.
been a week. It's been a week, I can tell you that, sir.
He pours something from the tap, tosses it over your way, on the house in this case.
You're giving out free liquor to anyone these days, you're gonna go out of business in a second.
Wouldn't say I give it out free to anybody, but I mean, look around here. If you think I'm gonna make it through the month, well, I'd like to know what crystal ball you're looking into and what's in store for me.
Is this place, like, completely devoid of people, or, like...
It's not completely devoid, but it is sparsely populated. And the place does look like it could use a fresh coat of paint, as it were. Listen, my statement is more to do with the fact that the only constant in this world is change itself. So, if you think that me giving this beer out for free is honestly going to change a whole lot, well then, I want to know what you're seeing.
You've got a point, but... Oh my god. You think this 1 month's gonna break you? Change don't happen quickly most of the time.
I mean,
Finance is that bad? You got the water bill in the back unpaid, like everything's shutting down this month, like to say that you're gonna be out in a predetermined amount of time.
this isn't really about my troubles, though. It's about yours. What sort of week you been going through?
Gesture at the TV. I am pretty clear, ain't it? Been sitting here watching a whole city get shot up, burned, lives being lost. It's a toll on the mind, you know. Hence why I'd like to not think about it too much right now.
That seems alright by me. It is awful what's going on, but it's a symptom of things that are going on, isn't it? Not the cause of all the woes that are going on in this world, it's just a symptom of them.
Well, for us common folk sitting in, well, as you say, a dying bar in the middle of a burnt city in the backwaters of the US, sometimes we can only deal with the symptoms. That's all that matters to us right now, down here on the street.
It's actually very true. He goes to move some stuff around. He excuses himself, leaving you alone in the bar. Edward?
Yeah.
After that phone call ends, where do you head, or do you just stay at your hideout?
I think it's going to be a bit of research.
On?
So, vampires as a whole, but also Juliet. Historical records, any places she shows up, talk to people, see if anyone's encountered her before. Reaching out, throwing the net wide if necessary.
Right, so let's go ahead and go with intelligence investigation for the first part, and if you also want to throw out a manipulation plus socialize, since you specifically mentioned talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
See what you pull up with those 2 rolls.
That's a 4 on the investigation.
You're mostly getting what you would expect. A lot of movie references and the like. Some of it lines up with what Richter told you. Others,
Okay, and then
others you take with a grain of salt. Like, there's a part of you that tells you that garlic thing is nonsense.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna have to willpower this because I've got in socialize. What the?
What you find out about Julia is, just by talking to the common layperson in Charleston, is mostly what you would find on that business card. She works here. She's essentially a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
She specifically specializes in apartments rather than housing. So she tends to deal with more upscale clientele, because you're generally not buying, you know, your house that's been converted into 3 different apartments. If you're a real estate agent, you're not really dealing with that type of stuff. You're dealing more with penthouse apartments and things of a little bit higher class. But outside of that, nobody you know knows her personally. And you've been around the city roughly all day at this point. Sun's gone down, night has started. And your phone buzzes as you get a text message.
I'll look at it.
It's not a number you recognize. And it only has... It has a location you don't recognize. But it's a photo of a greenhouse. And it has 3 individuals. You don't recognize 2 of them, but you recognize the one as Mary. It just seems to be a group photo. And it just says, "My end of the bargain is complete." How are things in the city?
One word answer.
And what is that one word? Or at least what letter does it begin with?
Well, it's the past tense, and it starts with an F.
Ah.
In keeping it family friendly.
Yeah, it's gonna be like that for a while. My kind is, if nothing but resourceful. Is there anything I can do to help? I don't plan on coming back to the city, so don't think I'm suggesting anything like that, but is there any information I can give? He seems rather adept at this text messaging. His messages come quickly.
Yeah. What have you got on Juliet?
Very little. My kind is obsessed with politics. I couldn't have cared less about politics. I was forced to obey the politics, so I chose the side that left me alone the most. And personally, I don't think your target should be Juliet. I think your target... I feel like your target... You know what? You want to go after Juliet. Whenever you want to go after somebody, you need to lay the groundwork. Places where you know they've been is always a great place to start. Start developing a pattern of behavior. Start profiling. It's something I had to learn. Whether or not I should have learned it is another matter.
So, who do you think we should be going after?
If I was a betting man, there is an underlying cause for these fights. As I had mentioned, I will not mention it again because I realize it is a sore subject. However, as I mentioned, my kind is obsessed with politics. All-out war is the failure of politicking. So that means it has failed. But why has it failed? It's not something my kind does. It's not something... We don't just give up. Something forced the hand. That third group that Juliet mentioned. I think they're to blame. But that is speculation. Sasha.
I think after the call, I think I'd try and go to... I think I'd end up at a local bakery. Not necessarily trying to go there, but just trying to... She's really shaken about all of this and about, you know, trying to take in her cellmate's advice of trying to rattle herself out of the constant fear that she's been having. Because again, with this condition looming over her, it's something to where she should have just been able to step back and say, I'm going to let everyone else, do their bit, but that's not giving her any rest. And so she's kind of drawn to that because she finds herself drawn to the bakery without even really understanding it, because that's some place that she knows back home. That's some place where she knows the sounds and the smells, and she knows the flow of the people and seeing things like that, and of wanting to unconsciously get that kind of reminder of what she's fighting for, even if she's not directly understanding it.
A little bell above the door rings. As stated, the smells are familiar. Bread, cinnamon rolls, the various pastries that are made here. You are greeted warmly. Girl, probably in her 20s. Is there anything that I can help you with today?
I just want a pastry. What would you recommend?
Ooh. There's quite a few. Are there any dietary restrictions?
No concerns.
Okay.
No concerns of that kind.
She kind of smiles. You have to ask that kind of question these days,
I know.
Well, personally, our chef back there, Ronaldo, he makes this mean, cinnamon, what is it? Cinnamon swirl bread? We can of course,
Sounds good.
cut off a slice for a sample if you want.
Sure. Is there seating in the bakery, or is it just a bakery?
It's minimal seating. There's one, maybe two tables. The rest of it is bakery, along with, it looks like maybe homemade jams, stuff like that.
Okay.
She slices off a piece of the cinnamon swirl bread and hands it to you and goes, if you end up wanting to buy a loaf, I'll be here. And she begins to start tending the register, straightening things up.
Sasha's going to go and sit down and just kind of nurse the bread and try and just think about everything that's happened.
About a third of the way through the bread, when the bell rings, you hear the girl greet somebody again. And the voice that you hear sounds like Juliet.
God. Okay. I'm going to try and stay composed and just get an eyeball full of this person.
As you do so, one thing you notice as you look up, sunlight streaming through the window, is that this person looks to be elderly, in her 50s or 60s. And the next time she speaks, she sounds very much like a local 50-year-old woman. Nothing like the voice that came out of Juliet.
I must be losing it.
No, I'm sorry. They both kind of look back at you with a bit of concern in both of their faces.
Sorry, don't mind me. I'm stressed. I can't seem to get away from work anymore, you know?
It's the customer that speaks up. Whew. I know that feeling. What field are you in?
Pest control. But I work at a bakery. Not this one, but a different one.
I feel
And
bad for a bakery that has pest problems. That really doesn't seem good for business.
I mean, it's complicated. There are multiple jobs. It's economy, you know?
Yeah, I can tell you. Tell me about it, honestly. Dollar doesn't stretch like it used to, does it?
Everything's just so vicious. I miss when things were easy and it didn't matter if you messed up because there was always another day, there was always another chance, there was always another. But I don't really know that ever was real, you know?
At this point,
Stuff's expensive, but I don't think we can ever remember stuff being cheap, you know?
At this point, the lady has gotten what she had purchased, and she's made her way over to sit across from you at the table to engage you in conversation. And she goes, by the way, she sighs and goes, I really don't know how to tell you this, Sasha. You're being watched. And she kind of leans back in her chairs and sets her purse up on the table. I believe somebody wants to send their regards.
You have just finished listening to this week's episode of Hunter the Vigil, Critical Measures, part of the Domain Gaming's Contagion Anthology, written and told by Wyverian. A special thanks to you, the listener, and if you wish to continue supporting us, subscribe, like, and share. As always, comments are welcomed. Until the next chapter, don't stop asking yourself, why must those who hunt monsters hunt themselves?